What's up, friends? Welcome to Drop-Ins Dr. Awesome. I am Dr. Awesome, and my last video was all about basic camera functions for recording video, and it seemed like a good idea to keep going on that basics line. And so, since we've talked about cameras, the next step would logically be what to do with the camera once you've got it in your hands. This is my video on basic shots and composition. And while everyone will develop their own style and their own method as they go through their videography career, it's always good to know what the rules are before you try and break them. That being said, let's jump in with a wide shot. And that's what this is. Let's make this a little more interesting. There we go. See, a wide shot is a full body shot that includes not just your subject, but also the environment in which they exist. This environment conveys contextual information about the story, about what's happening, and because of this information, these are also sometimes called establishing shots. All right, let's go medium. With the medium shot, we still have some context around us, but you can see the camera pushes in and our shot is now waist up. There is a variant of this, generally called the cowboy shot. The cowboy shot is very similar to a traditional medium shot, except for it goes a little lower because what's the point of having gunslingers in your movie if you're not going to see the guns they're slinging? I didn't like that. Now, medium shots are important because they do still provide some context, but they also provide a much clearer line of sight to your subject's face. Of course, having said that, there is nothing better for a line of sight for the face than a close-up. Close-ups, as the name implies, are very close up. They provide next to no context, but because they are zoomed in on your subject's face, they convey the most emotion. And that's really important. Now, of course, there are extreme close-ups, but these are really only good for certain things, and so I would suggest using them sparingly. Having talked about all of our basic shots, we now need to figure out how do we actually frame things? How do we put subjects in those shots? And there's a lot of things we could talk about with composition, but we're gonna boil this down to the absolute basics, what I would generally consider to be the foundation upon which your composition structure is built, the rule of thirds. Let's take a look at our wide shot again. So the rule of thirds is pretty simple. You start by dividing your viewfinder into thirds, both horizontally and vertically. And what you see here is that the top and bottom third lines go roughly through my shoulders and my knees. And at the moment, I am centered, looking straight to camera, right? If there are two people in this shot, you would want to have them live around these lines. But for a one-person shot, this is what a wide shot should look like. All right, let's go medium. For medium shots, the rule of thirds is pretty much exactly the same, except for now, instead of it going through my shoulders, that top third line goes through my eyes. Let's take a look at a close-up. Just like the medium shot, we have that third line going through my eyes and all of that, and that's enough of being this close to me. Let's move on. Having said all of that, every shot we've looked at so far has had the subject, me, looking straight at the camera. And so they've all been centered, because when your subject is looking directly at the camera, unless you're doing an over-the-shoulder shot, which is a whole different video, that's what you want them to do. You want them to look directly at the camera, and therefore you want them to be centered, right? What happens when your subject is looking off camera? Well, the rule of thirds still applies, and it's really pretty simple. So if I turn this way, and I look off camera in that direction, what you'll see is the top third line still goes through my eye, right? But that intersection point of the first on-screen third line and that third line going through my eye, they meet right there, right? You always want to have your lines converge on that offstage eye, and this is true for both the medium shot and the close-up. Just like the medium shot, that third line is going through my eye, we have the intersection point, I'm looking off camera in this direction. One of the things that's important to note is that when you've got somebody looking off camera, you always want to have this lead room here, right? You don't want to have this space behind your talent. You don't even really want them centered because it makes them look trapped. Now, there is a time and place for that, but it's not every single shot. So, generally speaking, allow for lead room. Finishing up on our wide shot one more time here, if I'm looking off camera in that direction, what you'll see is that our composition is very similar to our close and medium shots, but that intersection point is no longer on my eye, it's a little farther down here. But the rule still applies. We're still using those third lines as our guidelines. And having said all of that, look, is this all there is to know about shots and composition? No. But it is a really solid foundation, so, grab a camera, get out there and start practicing. Keep shooting.